Fun fact, I've been thinking about my future bookshop. Hey Dragonlings, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Skye. I'm a fantasy author who typically writes paranormal romance under the name SD Hegyes, and today we're doing the If I Owned a Bookstore tag. This tag was created by Robert from Robert G. Reader of Books. As far as I can tell, that's who I traced it back to. I believe it's his tag, but I'm not positive about that. I will have links to anyone I mentioned in the description below. I was actually tagged by 2 different people to do this tag, and that's why it's like jumped ahead on my list of tags to do. The first person who tagged me was Beth over at the Coffeeverse, I believe her channel is. Again, I will have a link in the description. And then the second person who tagged me is JC over at author JC Carpenter. But on top of that, it's actually something I've been thinking about recently because of the fact that I've seen a couple of videos. The first video I saw was from Ariel Bissett, where she talked about buying a truck and turning it into a bookmobile. And I just was like, that is brilliant and I want to do this. So I have actually been thinking about this off and on for a while, even before I was tagged in this. So let's go ahead and get into this tag and answer some questions. There are 9 actual questions, and then of course 10 is like tag your friends kind of thing. So let's go ahead and get into these questions and answer them. Before I actually get into these questions, I need to go ahead and describe what I'm thinking of. First off, my bookshop wouldn't actually be a bookstore, like a brick and mortar bookstore. I love the idea of a bookmobile that can drive to different places. So I am going to be basing my bookstore, my bookshop, on a mobile bookstore in a vehicle I can drive, or in a trailer that I can hook up to a vehicle I can drive. So I want you to imagine that as I answer these questions. Question number 1, what are the hours of operation? I think that this bookstore, this mobile bookstore, would operate from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then there might be different hours if we go to events. Because the one thing about being mobile is that I could travel around to different places, which means I could go to different events and sell books. I think that would be so much fun. And of course, because events have different times, and usually they're on the weekend, I would follow whatever the hours of operation were for the event I was at. So my hours would change based on that. And my hours during the week might change because of that too. Because again, if the event falls on a week versus a weekend, of course I'm going to follow the event hours. So hours subject to change, but 10 to 5 Monday through Friday. Again, I'm not positive about that because I gotta equate drive time, and it might actually, if I were to drive to different locations, my hours might change based on where I'm driving to, like how far I'm driving, how long I'm driving, and stuff like that. It might be like evening hours instead of daytime hours, which would be perfect for those who work like a 9 to 5. So I say 10 to 5, but it's very tentative because it's based on like different prerogatives and stuff like that. So like parameters, not prerogatives. So 10 to 5 tentatively, and possibly changing based on location, time, and events. Question number 2, is there ambient music? And if so, what kind? I actually do not think it'd be good to have music, only because of the fact that where I live currently can get very windy, and all I can see is that since we're outside, the music would get carried away by the wind and wouldn't be able to hear it anyways, and that would just be annoying to some people. It would come out more as noise, especially like if you're trying to talk over the wind anyways. It depends. If we're doing something and it's not windy, I'm thinking like lo-fi, low volume lo-fi, classical, something that's just without words kind of thing. Question 3, is there a coffee bar or do you serve alcohol? And I'm going to have to say no to both because again, with the mobile transport and the fact that we're going to be outside, that would mean bringing electricity into the bookmobile for a coffee pot, and that just doesn't seem reasonable. And alcohol, you have to have an alcohol license. And again, since I'm traveling, and I'd be possibly traveling not just across the same state, but maybe even different states, you'd have to have an alcohol license for every state you're in, or every state you serve alcohol in. And that just seems like a hassle, especially since I have talked to a couple people, because Small town people talk. The bowling alley opened their own bar, and it took them a while to open their bar because of the alcohol license that they had to get, and it was not cheap. So can you imagine paying for something like that across multiple states? Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. No alcohol, no coffee. Sorry. Sorry to disappoint, but no. Number 4, are patrons encouraged to linger? Are there comfortable chairs? What kind of lighting? Are there tables? Are there areas for group gatherings? I feel like I have to answer this one a little bit at a time versus like as a whole. Yes, I feel like people would be encouraged to linger and discuss books. However, it is outside, so there wouldn't really be any chairs, so how long they linger is based on of how long they could stand due to mobility constraints if they had any and stuff like that. I would encourage lingering, but again, because of no chairs, because of being outside and traveling, I don't know how logistically it work. The lighting again would be dependent upon location, time of day kind of thing. If I did a trailer versus a truck and it was something you could walk into, of course I would have lighting provided in the trailer, probably strips of lighting coming down from the ceiling. I'm not positive. Fairy lights on the shelf. I love the idea of fairy lights on the shelf. I'm just saying. I love fairy lights, and fairy lights lining the shelves would be beautiful. Tables, again, like the chairs, because of the fact that it's mobile and we're outside, I don't see that being a factor. That'd be too much work to not only set up the book truck or trailer, but to also set up tables. Possibly. There would probably be tables, if nothing else, not for people to necessarily sit at, but for like displays. If I were to do any kind of specific event going on and I had specific sales or something like that, I would probably have a table for displays. But beyond that, no. Not for people to sit at. And the same thing for chairs. Not for people to sit at. And then group gatherings, again, depends on the location because of the fact that it's mobile and we're driving around. If we're at a park and there's a lot of room to move and sit, yes, definitely very encouraging of the group gatherings. If we're in like a crowded parking lot, maybe not so much. So it just, again, varies on location. Number 5, is there live entertainment, poetry readings, author readings from their current work, lectures in literature, stuff like that. I love the idea of doing story time. I've been to several story time events where I took the kids to them, or when I was babysitting for a little bit, I took those kids to them. I've also done story time myself when I worked at a used bookstore. So I love the idea of doing a story time event, which is why I said that there might be a chair, but it wouldn't necessarily be for patrons. But that would be something that happened on the weekend or maybe at an event that I was participating at. It varies. And then, of course, if we're at an event, there would be whatever entertainment was at the event. Because if we're doing a specific event that is related to author readings, obviously there'd be author readings. Would I specifically schedule anything? Not necessarily. If an author approached me and said, hey, I know you're going to be at this location. I would love to do a signing at your bookmobile. I would probably say yes. Absolutely. Come join me. I will have you. I will display your books. Let's do this. But would I particularly reach out and schedule anything? Probably not. I don't know. That's something I would have to think on. Question number 6. Where is your bookstore located? In the busy heart of a city, large city, in a neighborhood of a large city, in a suburban strip mall, in a small town, in a rural area? One of the reasons I wanted to do the mobile bookstore so that we could move around to different locations. Like that's the whole point. That's the whole point. So yes, to all of the above. Like wherever I can go and park and be legally able to park and sell books, let's do it. Let's do it. I don't care if it's in the same state, multiple states, all across the United States. Probably not driving to Hawaii or Alaska, I'm just saying. Question 7. How does your bookstore look from the outside? Sleek and modern, dark and brooding? How does it look? Again, because it's mobile, it depends on if I have a trailer or just a truck. Ariel Bassett's was a truck. I like the idea of a pull behind trailer so I can continue using the vehicle for other tasks if I need to, or like if I were at an event that takes place across multiple days and I want to go sleep at a hotel, I can just drop the trailer, leave it there, don't have to worry about setting it up and taking it down, and I can go sleep at a hotel. So I like the idea of a trailer better. And because of that, it would be the trailer decorated, not the truck. The truck would probably just have the logo of the business, and that's it. But the trailer could be all decked out. Obviously the logo would be on it, and whatever the logo design was probably would affect what the trailer looks like. However, I like the idea of the trailer being like bright and colorful because it catches your attention. The one thing I always notice traveling through any town are yellow vehicles, yellow and orange, because they stand out, and lime green. Yellow, orange, and lime green vehicles stand out. Those bright, brilliant colors that you don't see very often. So I feel like my bookmobile would be painted in bright colors. I love the idea of a mural. Oh my God, I would love a mural. What that mural would be would again be dependent upon various factors, and would probably be centered around the logo because of the fact that need to advertise the bookmobile. So I don't have an exact idea in mind, but the thing that comes to mind when I think of a mural, for anyone who's seen the movie Outward, the van was painted with like a unicorn scenery. I was like, that's what I want on my bookmobile. Not necessarily that scenery, but like that fantastical imagery that just is out of this world. That is what I picture on the bookmobile. But again, it very much depends upon what the logo looks like, how much space the logo takes up. Can we put the logo on there and still do a mural? A lot of factors. And again, because of the everything would be centered around the logo, I don't know exactly what I would put on there. I would love to have a dragon. I would love to have a dragon. And we'll get into why in a minute with a different question. But I don't have any specifics in mind at this moment for what would actually be on the bookmobile. Question number 8. What's your specialty? Used books, new and used, only fiction, only nonfiction, fiction and nonfiction. Does your bookstore specialize in a particular genre? I think it would be a mixture. At first, when we first get started with this bookmobile, I think it would be just used books. I would go around to free little libraries and probably exchange some books there. I've got books from my own library I would put into it. I would go around to different estate sales and get some used books. I would go around to different thrift stores and get some used books and do something like that. And we would start with used books. Eventually, I might add in new books. I don't particularly know. I like the idea of used books though. And again, we'll get into that when I talk about what I would name this. But I think specifically used books would be a good. I do have experience working with used bookstores because I worked at a used bookstore for 4 or 5 years. I can't remember at this point how many, before they closed down, and it was like the best job ever. Loved it, absolutely loved it. So I do have some experience with used books and what to like check for to make sure that I don't get books with water damage or book mold and damage other books. So like, plus, I just love the idea of being able to pick up a physical used mass market paperback and smell it. Oh my God, oh, book smells delicious. Oh. So yeah, I think used books, at least to start off with, would definitely be my wheelhouse. And then if I were doing events, I would definitely do something where I like feature local authors. Definitely feature local authors. I talked earlier about maybe having a display table. That display table might be new books from local authors. If we're doing a specific event that revolves around a specific genre, of course, I would have books displayed from that particular genre for that event. So again, it varies because again, we're a mobile bookstore. I can do a little bit of everything and anything. Editing Skye here to kind of make a caveat to this. I've thought about this a little bit more, and one of the things I'm starting to get more into is watching like bookbinding videos. I've done bookbinding myself with journals, and I think it would be really cool. All I can think about is the scene in both the book and the movie Inkheart. The book is by Cornelia Funk. I'll put a graphic on here. The dad in the book, I think his name is Mort. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's Mort. He is a book fixer, book repairer. He goes around to different bookstores and repairs books. And so all I can think in my head now that I've thought about this question a little bit more is that, and combining that with bookbinding. Because I'm watching all these videos where people are taking like paperbacks and turning them into hardcovers and stuff like that. And so I think it would be really cool to combine the two aspects. I will sell used books with new covers, and they'll be like hardbound with specialty, like I'll use a Cricut to cut out different special filigree and stuff like that. Maybe even do some end page design. I don't know exactly yet, but I think the concept is so cool that I think it would be cool to combine the two things. Not just new books, but used books that have been refreshed with new covers, with new cover design, bound as hardbacks, stuff like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to add that in here. As far as like how they would be organized, of course they'd be organized by genre. I wouldn't have like all the books mixed together. I would have a specific section for like romance, fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror. Like there would be different sections for different books, but I don't think I would be specific as far as like, I'm only going to display fantasy. I'm only going to display mystery. I'm only going to display romance. Only going to display horror. I don't think I could do that. Not and still be a mobile bookstore. Maybe. I don't know. If I did have to niche down to a specific genre, it would be fantasy because that is where my wheelhouse lies. However, that being said, I have more experience in both fantasy and romance. So it might be, since I'm thinking about doing a trailer, this half would be romance, this half would be fantasy. Up front might be the mixture of the two kind of thing. I don't know. It would vary. It would depend. Other things that I would love to carry in my little mobile bookstore would be like bookmarks, stickers especially. I'm a huge fan of stickers. If you've been around for a while, you know this. I love stickers. Stickers! But other swag as well. For those, I personally do not like tote bags. I do not like tote bags. I don't have a real reason. I just don't like them. But I think it would be cool to have a tote bag with the mobile bookstore's logo on it. Again, love the logo idea. But that way that if you buy a bunch of books, you have something to carry them away with. I'm just saying. And then if you buy so many books, you'll get a free tote bag. I think that would be cool. So stuff like that. And then another thing that I would love to do is artwork from local authors, local artists. Because there's such a big influx of AI art these days, and I really like supporting genuine artists. I think displaying local artwork from artists and selling their work where people might not ever see it before if they don't find it on the internet would be fantastic. So that is kind of the gist of what I would be displaying at my mobile bookstore. And the 9th and final question before we just have to tag a bunch of people. What is the name of your bookstore? And if you haven't guessed it yet, and how the fact that I wanted a dragon theme, it would be called the Book Dragon's Hoard. The Book Dragon's Hoard. Because I'm hoarding books. Yes, the Book Dragon's Hoard is the name of the mobile bookstore. And that's why I think it would be really cool to have some kind of dragon mural on the side of the mobile bookstore, the mobile trailer. You know, I've been thinking about this so much that I actually am like, my sister sent me a text message the other day and was like, look what I found. And she found trucks. And she was like, these look like those trucks from that video. Because I sent them the video as well. I was like, I'm actually really thinking about doing this. So she was like, it's only $10,000 to buy a truck. I'm like, I don't have $10,000. But if it did, I would do it today. And build me a mobile bookstore. Because I was just like, I want to do this. I think this would be a fun adventure to do in the future for real. Not just in the imagination in this tag, but I really do think I want to own a mobile bookstore in the future. Might be 5 to 10 years down in the future, but I think it would be so cool. The last question, I say question with quotations, tag your friends. Question 10, tag your friends. I am going to specifically tag Stephanie from Stephanie Whitson's channel. But if you're watching this and you haven't done this tag, feel free to do it. And even if you don't film your own tag, feel free to drop your replies to the questions in the comments. I will have a list of all the questions in the description. But anyways, those are some things that I would do if I owned a bookstore, a bookshop. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me some kind of book emoji or truck emoji, because again, mobile bookstore. I'm so excited about this. I want to do this. I want to do this so bad, for real. But anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. My final question for you guys would be, what would your bookshop look like if you have one, or what would its name be? I would be ecstatic to hear your replies. But that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you all in my next video. Bye, Dragonlings.